When Saturday came, Barbara had had it with the whole situation. Colin had continued to alienate his stepfather, always saying sorry to Mrs. Hoffman all the time. But now she was going to let her feelings known to him. She hammered repeatedly on his bedroom door, before she forced her way inside. "Colin, it's time you and I had a talk." He was lying on his back staring at the roof. "Weren't you supposed to be going on a date today?" "It's not a date," Barbara said defensively. "He's just taking me out of this awful house. And it's not bodies in woods I'm running from, it's you." Colin rolled his eyes. "What did I do this time?" "What do you mean this time? You've been doing it since my dad got back." "I don't understand." "That's your prob, not mine." He slowly rose up from the bed and swung his legs over the side. "Why don't you get ready for your boyfriend?" "He isn't my boyfriend." "Don't keep on changing the subject. Can't you see how you're hurting Mum?" "She didn't think about me when she remarried," he retorted. Her eyes widened. "How can you be so selfish?" Colin placed his headphones on and started playing music. It seemed he wasn't going to cooperate in any way, shape or form. It was time to take up her dad's invite to draw the forest, her new artist studio. His foul attitude isn't going to spoil another day. After she found her dad, they both sat outside sketching the tree line. But Barbara couldn't help herself, as if something told her to draw the swing. "Why don't you draw the house?" "It should be an interesting subject," asked Mr. Hoffman. "Why don't you do it, Dad?" "I'm drawing the swing at the moment." "What? You're drawing that old thing? Why?" He frowned. "It's not exactly very inspiring. I don't know myself, so I can't tell you. It's a very interesting subject for me. I like that sort of thing." "Why don't you draw the house?" "Okay. I'll just do that." All the while something in her mind, almost controlling her will, forced her to draw a red-headed girl swinging there. The day stretched out in front of them like a new sheet of paper. From this point on there would be no more threats. Nonsense from Colin, but she couldn't keep the coming evening with Jeff from her mind, which made the day drag on. Minutes seemed like hours. Choosing not to eat much for her tea, Barbara went up to her room. She was still trying to convince herself that this wasn't going to be a date, though she was planning to be more daring with her clothes. But looking at her collection, she just picked out jeans, shirt and denim jacket. Tying her brown hair into a ponytail, she made her way down the stairs. "You could have been more imaginative," Mrs. Hoffman commented. "You do want to impress Jeff, don't you?" "Oh, Mum. Please," Barbara laughed. "I'll be fine like this." "Leave the poor girl alone, Deb," Mr. Hoffman pleaded. "She's being herself." He swooped down on his wife, kissing her. Barbara chose to leave when her parents started acting like a couple teenagers. "I'll see you later, you guys." No response. Going out onto the porch, the sky was red as the sun vanished behind the trees. It would soon be dark. She found Jade sat outside. He had a pot of silly putty in front of him, making a lot of mess on the ground. "Now what are you doing?" "Just puttering, sis," he said, joining the putty into a large ball, and pulling it apart again. "Well, don't swallow it, whatever you do. It's time you went inside. I don't think that Mum and Dad would be too pleased if they knew you're out here. Don't worry. You just go and enjoy your date." The wide grin broke across his small face. A short time after, Jeff pulled up out the front. She told Jade to say goodbye to her parents for her. He wore a thick lumberjack shirt, also jeans. "Are you ready for a good time?" Barbara smiled at him. "This is going to brill. Yeah, it's going to be a welcome change to that house and family." Jeff looked rather surprised. "What's up with the family?" "It's a long story," she sighed. "I'd rather not go into that again. I'm just sick of it." Not pressing the subject again, they headed out of town, but not the way the Hoffmans had come into town. It seemed to be in the opposite direction. Clearing the trees, they were out on a long country road, flat fields lay on either side, rolling into the bleak distance as darkness fell. "This isn't too far, is it?" Barbara asked, taking in the view of flatland all around. "I'm not one for long car rides." Jeff said nothing, keeping his eyes fixed on the road as out of the darkness came a blur of light at the bottom of a steep hill. Slowly the large car plundered down from the gravel track to a smooth road. All the lights in the houses around them were burning with life. Such a contrast compared with Winterfield. Granderville was going to be a fun town. "So this is where all the youth of Winterfield hang out," she remarked, as they passed groups of kids walking around, laughing, just having fun. "I wish Mum and Dad had picked this place to live." He just made the funny sound. "But this town doesn't have half the character that our town does. I'd swap characters for a normal life." "I guess you're right. I mean, who in their right mind breaks into a store just to nick a dummy?" "Now that is—" "What did you just say?" Barbara cut him off. Images of seeing that body lying there sent a chill down her spine. "Didn't I tell you? We had a break-in at Winter Clothes on Monday night." Jeff shook his head. "There are some weirdos around here, like creeps." Then the picture flickered in her mind like a flame, one of the dummies in the window. "Let me guess, it was the girl with the red hair they stole, the one in the storefront. What, are you psychic or something? You got it in one?" He seemed very surprised. "How did you know?" "Tell him," she scolded herself. "Tell him what's been happening to you. He may be able to help. You know I told you how creeps had threatened me." "Yeah, sure. Someone's been menacing me on the phone, telling me to get out before I die. And the other day I could have sworn I found Sarah Winterfield's body. Well, it was your dummy. That is really sick," Jeff snarled as he turned into Bowling Alley Car Park. "Have you told your parents?" "No." Barbara gulped, the words catching in her throat. "Things are bad enough at home without even more worries." "Is that why you got all that stuff up on Sarah's abduction?" "Partly," she sighed, turning her gaze out the window. Feeling his soft hand on her shoulder, she flinched. "Ah, it's not the only thing. You may think it's weird, but well, take it easy. You can't tell me. On the first night we got to the house, I heard giggling coming from Sarah's swing and it was swinging on its own." "Are you sure it wasn't the wind? There was gales that night." "You don't believe me, do you?" He shifted slightly, leaning over. He caressed her cheek. "I'm not saying that. Did anything else happen?" For a while Barbara's words seemed to be lodged. She felt a tear in her eye. "Just before I found the body I saw someone on Sarah's swing. I thought it was a ghost." Jeff suddenly pulled back at such a rate it gave her a fright. "What's wrong?" She took the opportunity to rub his shoulder. "Did I say something to—" "No," he snapped. "I've seen her too, when I was up driving in the woods one evening. She ran right out in front of me." He rested his head on his hands as he grabbed the wheel. "I can't believe she'd go that far, though there were other times when she tried to split me up with other girls. But you've been so nice to her." "Jeff, what are you talking about?" Barbara asked, suddenly becoming very scared. "Sally Faulkner?" She realized the thought had never even occurred to her. "Is Sally jealous of me because Jeff dumped her, and was trying to frighten me off? I can't believe it. Even if it is true, don't let it spoil our evening out together." "You're right, that's what she would want." With that said, both of them made their way across the car park, booking a lane for just the two of them. Loud music blasted from all around them. The atmosphere was much more lively, and Barbara even felt like having a good time. As soon as the game had started, things got off to a flying start. She got a strike on her fourth go, though Jeff managed to get two, but he persisted that was because he got practice every weekend. Even with that they won one game each. But most of the second he just larked around, doing silly things with the ball. She just couldn't help but have a good time. Shortly after they retired to a small bar out the back, and got some cola to drink. "I'll have to come with you every time you practice," said Barbara as she slumped at a blue glowing table. "I'll have you running for your 10 pins when I finished. Don't you start getting big-headed. It takes a certain class to practice with me and my friends." "Ooh, is that so? Well, I've kicked your butt once tonight. Isn't that good enough to make the grade?" "Yeah, why not?" He pulled out a small bit of crumpled paper, and unfolded it. Grabbing a pen he scribbled on and passed it to her. "What's this?" "It's a membership paper, for the club." Jeff placed his hand on her arm, smiling warmly at her. "Shall we take a drive?" Turning the car back towards Winterfield again, Jeff pulled off down a small country road into the park. The stars could be seen clearly, shining like crystals over the young couple's heads. Jeff led her to a small park bench and sat down. For a while they both gazed up at the ready-made light show. Slowly his arm went round her shoulder. "I'm truly sorry about the welcoming committee you've had," he apologized. "It's petty. Don't worry, I'll get to know Sally when I see her on Monday." Barbara shifted closer, feeling his grip tighten around her. "Oh, it feels so good. Please don't end." Then she felt his soft touch. Her hair fell to the side of her face. Their lips touched. Only the soft rustle of the breeze in the trees stirred in the cool night air.